Hey guys, welcome to another video discussion in income taxation. Sa video ito ay pag-uusapan natin ang Chapter 7 sa aklat ni Sir Rex B. Banggawan, CPA, MBA. Yung book niya ay Income Taxation, Laws, Principles, and Applications. So, itong Chapter 7, this is all about Introduction to Regular Income Tax. So, basically, ang pag-uusapan natin dito is just an overview kung ano nga ba itong regular income tax. Okay, simulan na natin and we'll start it with the characteristics of the regular income tax. There are 5 characteristics of the regular income tax. First one is general in coverage. So, ibig sabihin, itong regular income tax ay applicable sa lahat ng klase ng income except sa income na subject to final tax o kaya subject sa capital gains tax o subject sa special tax regimes. Kasi, kapag yung income ay subject to final tax or capital gains tax or special tax regimes, hindi na siya pwedeng i-tax pa under the regular income tax. Another characteristic of the regular income tax is that it is a net income. It is a net income tax. So, dito kasi sa regular income tax, we need to compute for the net income. So, we need to deduct the expenses as well as the exemptions allowed by law from the gross income. Saka natin i-determine yung regular tax. So, bale, yung basis natin for the regular income tax would be the taxable net income. Another characteristic of the regular income tax is that it is an annual tax. Ibig sabihin, itong regular income tax is applied on the yearly or the annual profits or gains of the taxpayer. Next, the regular income tax is a creditable withholding tax. So, most of the income that are subject to the regular income tax are also subject to the creditable withholding tax. Like, for example, itong salary income ni employee. So, apart from the GSAS or SSS, Pag-ibig and PhilHealth, yung monthly salary ni employee is also deducted with the creditable withholding tax. So, sa income tax return ni employee, so ang magpre-prepare niyan is the employer. So, si employer, magko-compute yan kung magkano yung regular income tax na babayaran dapat ni employee. And then from that, i-deduct yung total creditable withholding taxes. So, yung difference ng regular income tax as per computation and the total creditable withholding tax, yun yung magiging tax due to the government. The last characteristic of the regular income tax is that it is a progressive or proportional tax. Progressive on the part of the individual taxpayers and then proportional on the part of the corporate taxpayers. Okay, now, ano ba yung progressive? Again, progressive tax, this is for individual taxpayers. So that means, kung malaki yung income ni individual taxpayer, eventually, malaki din yung regular income tax na babayaran niya. Now, for the corporate taxpayers naman, they are subject to the proportional tax or flat tax rate of 30% upon their taxable income. But when it comes to the second package of the train law, yung proportional tax or flat tax is 25%. The regular income tax model. So this is how the taxable income is computed. So we have gross income less the allowable deductions, and that is equal to the taxable income. So itong gross income, ito yung inclusions. Ibig sabihin, ito yung mga income items that are subject to regular income tax. Itong allowable deductions naman or simply deductions, ito ay mga expenses that are related to the business o kaya related to the exercise of the profession. Itong gross income and allowable deductions, i-discuss natin to sa separate video. So, abangan nyo yan in the future. So, since we are already talking about expenses, there is something I want you to take note. For individual taxpayers, dapat it's important na alam natin ang distinction. Alam natin ang kaibahan between business expenses and personal expenses. Ang business expenses, these are expenses na related to the business. Personal expenses naman, on the other hand, are expenses na hindi related sa business and therefore, hindi sila deductible against gross income. And then take note na yung individual taxpayer na hindi engaged in business are not allowed to claim deductions from the gross income. Classification of individual taxpayers. Meron tayong tatlong classification ng individual taxpayers. Number 1 is etong pure compensation income earner. So dito, ang income ni individual taxpayer ay galing sa kanyang salary, galing sa kanyang sahod, and wala nang iba. The second classification is pure business or professional income earner. Dito naman, yung income ni individual taxpayer ay galing sa business niya or from the exercise of his or her profession, and then wala nang ibang source of income. Another classification or the third classification of individual taxpayer is the mixed income earner. So dito, si individual taxpayer ay merong income from his or her compensation or from his or her salary. And then meron din siyang income from his or her business o kaya naman from the exercise of his or her profession. Alright, now pag-usapan naman natin itong personal exemption. So meron tayong important note dito tungkol sa personal exemption. Dati, before the imposition of the train law, meron tayong personal exemption which is in lieu for the personal living and family expenses of an individual taxpayer. Pero ngayon, because of the train law, wala na itong personal exemption and mas naging madali yung computation ng ating regular income tax. Under the train law kasi yung first 250,000 pesos annual income ni individual taxpayer is exempt from the tax. And this exemption is embedded in the income tax table for individual taxpayers. Determination of taxable income. So, paano ba natin i-determine itong taxable income? So, for individual taxpayers, ang taxable income ay determined by the classification and the globalization rule. Under the classification rule, yung gross income is classified into compensation income and business or professional income. So, alam nyo na, no, itong compensation income, ito ay yung income na galing sa employer-employer relationship, no? This is compensation income or salary income. The business income or professional income naman, on the other hand, are income from the selling of goods or from rendering of services for a profit. Now, question, what about or what if yung income ay hindi naman classified as compensation income nor business income or professional income? Ano yung magiging classification niya? Sabi dito, it will be classified as other taxable income or simply other income. Ulitin ko ha, what if yung income ay hindi siya classified as compensation income at hindi naman siya pwedeng i-classify as business or professional income? Ano yung magiging classification niya? It will be classified as other taxable income or simply other income. Now, ano ba yung magiging treatment sa kanya? It will be added to the gross income from business or profession. Ano yung magiging treatment ng other taxable income or other income? It will be added to the gross income from business or profession. Pero take note, if si individual taxpayer ay walang business or walang professional income, so yung other income na yun, it will be added to the taxable compensation income. Etong globalization rule naman, this is applied to the mixed income earners. So, for mixed income earners, yung income nila from the compensation and yung income nila from business is going to be globalized. Meaning to say, ito total natin, ha? Ito total ang income from compensation at yung income from the business. And then, in the event na merong net loss, now, when we say net loss, mas malaki yung deductions kaysa gross income. So, yung net loss ay hindi pwedeng i-offset sa compensation income. So, tandaan nyo class ha, walang expense na i-deduct from the taxable compensation income. Yung deductions kasi, these are expenses of the business or the profession. And so, they can only be deducted from the income generated by the business or the profession. Okay, dito na tayo sa illustration para ma-apply natin yung na-discuss natin. Meron tayong 4 na cases dito and our task here is to compute for the taxable income in each single case. So, simulan natin with case number 1. So, sabi dito, si individual taxpayer has a gross compensation income of 300,000 pesos. Meron siyang non-taxable compensation income na 30,000 pesos. Tapos, meron siyang other income na 20,000 pesos. Okay, so clearly, si individual taxpayer dito is a compensation income earner. Pero meron siyang other income. Now, can you still remember ano ba yung magiging treatment ng other income? So, just to remind you, yung other taxable income or otherwise known as other income, it will be added to the gross income from the business or from the profession. Again ha, yung other income or yung other taxable income, it will be added to the gross income from business or profession of the taxpayer. But in case if the individual taxpayer has no business income or has no professional income, just like here in case number 1, etong other income or other taxable income is going to be added to the taxable compensation income. Okay, tandaan nyo yan ha. So, here's now the computation for the taxable income here in case number 1. So, we'll start with the gross compensation income of the taxpayer, which is 300,000 pesos. Tapos, i-deduct natin itong non-taxable compensation of 30,000 pesos. By the way, class, itong non-taxable compensation, ito ay ang mga legally mandated salary deductions na exempted by law, contracts or treaty from the income taxation. So, we will be discussing more of this sa ibang video. So, there will be a video that is all about compensation income. So, doon natin yun i-discuss. So, 300,000 minus 30,000. So, the taxable compensation income is 270,000 pesos. And then, we are going to add, no, do not forget, we are going to add the other income of 20,000 pesos. Again, class ha, itong 20,000 pesos na other income, supposedly, it should be added dun sa, or firstly, it will be added dun sa gross income from business or profession. Pero in this case kasi, walang professional income or walang business income si individual taxpayer dito. So, that's why we add this other income dun sa taxable compensation income. So, we have 270,000 plus 20,000. So, yung total taxable income is 290,000 pesos. Alright, let's move to case number 2. So, in this case, si individual income taxpayer, meron siyang gross business income of 400,000 pesos, deductions of 250,000 pesos, and then other income of 20,000 pesos. So, based on the information, si individual income taxpayer, in this case, is a business income earner with other income. Now, let us compute for the taxable income. And we'll begin with the gross business income of 400,000 pesos. And then, we are going to add the other income of 20,000 pesos. Now, the question is, bakit natin dinagdag itong other income dun sa gross business income? So, class, I want you to remember kung ano yung treatment ni other income or other taxable income. Nabanggit ko na to kanina, but I'm going to say it again para maalala nyo, para matandaan nyo. So, si other income or other taxable income, idadagdag talaga siya dun sa gross income from business or profession. Pero in case na walang business income or professional income si individual income taxpayer, etong other income ay idadagdag natin dun sa taxable compensation income. Now, going back to our computation, so we have gross business income of 400,000 pesos and then plus the other income of 20,000 pesos. So, the total gross income is now 420,000 pesos. And then, ililess natin itong deductions, which is 250,000 pesos. So, 420,000 minus 250,000. So, the taxable net income is 170,000 pesos. Okay, so now proceed tayo with case number 3. So, in this case, si individual income taxpayer, meron siyang gross compensation income of 300,000 pesos, non-taxable compensation income of 30,000 pesos, gross business income of 400,000 pesos, deductions of 250,000 pesos, and then other income of 20,000 pesos. So, based on this information, si individual income taxpayer dito is a mixed income earner. Mixed income earner kasi meron siyang income from compensation and from business. So again, si individual income taxpayer dito is a mixed income earner with other income kasi meron siyang other income na 20,000. Ayan. Now, let's compute for the taxable income and we'll start with the gross compensation income of 300,000 pesos. Tapos, i-deduct natin itong non-taxable compensation na 30,000 pesos. So, 300,000 minus 30,000. So, ang taxable compensation income ay 270,000 pesos. And then, dito naman tayo sa business income niya. So, start with the gross business income of 400,000 pesos. And then, we are going to add the other income. Ulitin ko lamang ha, itong treatment ng other income. So, pag si individual income taxpayer, meron siyang business income or professional income, itong other income ay idadagdag dun sa gross income from business or profession. Pero kung walang business income or professional income si individual income taxpayer, itong other income ay idadagdag dun sa taxable compensation income. Now, for case number 3, meron kasi siyang business income tapos compensation income. So, therefore, yung other income, doon natin idadagdag doon sa first priority, which is the gross business income. That's why we added the 20,000 pesos dito sa gross business income. So, 400,000 plus 20,000. So, the total gross business income is 420,000 pesos. And then, we are going to less the deductions of 250,000 pesos. By the way, class, itong deductions, ito yung mga expenses na related to the business or related to the conduct of the profession. So, therefore, pwede lang siyang i-deduct from the gross income from the business or profession. Okay? So, 420,000 minus 250,000. So, the taxable net income from business is 170,000 pesos. And then, di ba, when it comes to mixed income earner, we're going to globalize or total the income from the compensation and from the business or profession. So, that's why we're going to add this taxable compensation income of 270,000 plus the taxable net income from business of 170,000. So, therefore, the total taxable income is 440,000 pesos. Let's now proceed to the last case, case number 4, and this time si individual income taxpayer ay merong gross compensation income na 300,000 pesos, non-taxable compensation income of 30,000 pesos, gross business income of 200,000 pesos, and then yung deductions niya ay 250,000 pesos, and then other income of 20,000 pesos. So based on this information, the individual income taxpayer here is a mixed income earner pero meron siyang net loss on the business or profession. Okay, bakit net loss? We'll find out sa computation. Now, let's compute for the taxable income and we'll start with the compensation income. So, simulan natin sa gross compensation income of 300,000 pesos and then we are going to deduct the non-taxable portion of the compensation, which is 30,000 pesos. So, 300,000 minus 30,000 pesos. So the taxable compensation income is 270,000 pesos. Now, dito naman tayo sa business income. So we have gross business income of 200,000 pesos. And then, of course, we're going to add the other income na 20,000 pesos. So 200 plus 20,000, 200,000 plus 20,000. So the total gross income is 220,000 pesos. And then we are going to less the deductions. How much? 250,000 pesos. So again, yung total gross income is 220,000 and then yung expenses or yung deductions is 250,000. So mas malaki yung deductions or expenses kaysa income. So meron tayong net loss of 30,000 pesos. Now, class, take note of this. Etong net loss from the business na 30,000 pesos, hindi ito pwedeng i-offset against the taxable compensation income na 270,000 pesos. Ulitin ko ha. Ang net loss from the business or profession ay hindi pwedeng i-offset against the taxable compensation income. But actually, class, etong net loss, pwede siyang i-carry over as a deduction against the net income from the business or profession for the next succeeding 3 taxable years. And we call that as a net operating loss carryover or NOLCO. And we will be discussing about this NOLCO in a separate chapter or in a separate video. But for now, tapusin muna natin itong computation natin, ha? So, sa tanong na magkano yung taxable income in this case, ang sagot natin ay 270,000 pesos. Determination of taxable income of corporate taxpayers. So, kung paano natin na-determine yung taxable income for pure business or professional income earners. So, ganun din yung magiging procedure in computing for the taxable income of the corporate taxpayers. Accounting method and accounting period. If the taxpayer is using the GAAP cash basis on a calendar year, ibig sabihin nun yung kanyang taxable income is going to be computed under the tax cash basis on a calendar year. Pag ang ginamit naman niya ay GAAP cash basis on a fiscal year, so yung taxable income niya is going to be computed under tax cash basis on a fiscal year. Pag ang ginamit naman niya ay GAAP accrual basis on a calendar year, then yung taxable income niya is going to be computed under tax accrual basis on a calendar year. And if the taxpayer is using GAAP accrual basis on a fiscal year, that means yung taxable income niya is going to be computed under tax accrual basis on a fiscal year. Moving on to the determination of gross income from business or profession. So, kanina kasi sa illustration, yung gross income is already given. Now, what if kailangan pa nating i-compute kung magkano yung gross income? So, paano ba yung computation niya? But actually, I'm confident that you guys know well about computing the gross income kasi na-discuss na yan sa accounting subjects niyo. So I really believe that you guys know well enough for this. But nonetheless, I'm still gonna show you the formulas. For merchandising business or business that earns income from the selling of goods, yung gross income is computed using this formula: sales minus cost of goods sold or cost of sales, and then the difference is the gross income. Now, how to compute for the cost of goods sold or cost of sales? So we have beginning inventory and then add the purchases. It must be net of returns and allowances, and then add freight in. So the total of that is the total goods available for sale, and then less the ending inventory, and then the difference is now the cost of goods sold. For manufacturing business, yung cost of sales naman is going to be computed in this manner. So, we'll start with the raw materials beginning, tapos plus purchases. And take note, yung purchases must be net of purchase return and allowances. And then plus freight in, and then the total is known as total raw materials available for use. Tapos less the raw materials end, and then the balance is known as the raw materials used, and then add the direct labor, add manufacturing overhead, and then the total is known as total manufacturing cost. And then you're going to add work in process beginning, and And then the total is called total cost placed in process. And then less the work in process end. So the balance is known as cost of goods manufactured. And then you're going to add finished goods inventory beginning. And the total is known as total cost of goods available for sale. And then less the finished goods inventory end. And the balance is now the cost of goods sold. Sales, revenues, receipts, and fees. So, ano ba yung kaibahan nila? We'll start with the revenues. So, the word revenue refers to the gross inflow of the benefits arising from the primary operations of the business. And it could be in the form of sale and fees. When we say sale, that refers to the revenue from the sale of goods. Fees naman refers to the revenue from the sale of service. So again, revenue from the sale of goods, we call that sales. And then revenue from the sale of service, we call that fees. Receipts naman, on the other hand, refers to the cash collection from the sale of goods or services. Take note, class, na itong words na sales, fees, and revenue, they are commonly used to denote the income of the taxpayers using the accrual basis of accounting. While the word receipts, this is used to denote the income of the taxpayer using the cash basis. Revenue versus gross income. So, ano naman yung kaibahan nila? When we say revenue, it is a gross concept. But when we say gross income, it is a net concept. Remember how we compute for the gross income? Diba, we have to deduct the cost of sales or the cost of service from the sales or fees respectively. Other taxable income from operations. Other taxable income from operations includes revenues or receipts from incidental or secondary operations aside from the primary operations of the business. Like for example, sa school. So yung tuition fees galing sa mga estudyante, yun yung kanyang primary revenue. Pero yung income from the bookstore, sa kanyang canteen, o kaya sa student dormitories, yun ay isang other operating revenue of the school. Another example, sa manufacturing company, yung gross income from the sale of its finished goods, yun yung kanyang primary revenue. Pero yung income niya from the sale of the scrap, yun ay other operating revenue ni manufacturing company. For the private hospital naman, so yung patient service fees, yun yung kanyang primary revenue. Pero yung room rental and then yung sale of medicines, yun ay isang other operating revenue ni private hospital. Another example, okay, dormitory. So, sa dormitory, yung binabayad na boarding fees ng mga boarders or ng mga tumira doon, yun ay ang kanyang primary revenue. Pero yung income from the laundry and canteen, yun ay isang other operating income ni dormitory. For a retail store naman, so yung sale of the merchandise, yun yung kanyang primary revenue. But yung kanyang commission from the consignment, kung meron man, that constitutes as other operating revenues. Now, let's proceed to non-operating income. So, what are these? So, we have number 1, gains from dealings in properties not covered by the capital gains tax. So, tandaan nyo lang, ano-ano ba yung covered by the capital gains tax? We have sale of domestic stocks directly to buyer, and then sale of real properties classified as capital assets located in the Philippines. And then, non-operating income also includes income distribution from general professional partnership, taxable trust or estate, or from an exempt joint venture. And then it also includes casual active income net of the expense related on the casual transaction. When we say casual active income, that refers to a one-time transaction. Like for example, casual carpentry income of a person na hindi naman engaged in a carpentry business. No? Again, it's a one-time transaction. And then take note na yung expense related on that casual transaction is going to be set off with the casual income. And then yung net gain or income is considered as non-operating income. And then, fourth one, non-operating income also includes passive income not subject to final tax. So, just review what are those passive income subject to final tax. And then, other than those, I considered as part of the non-operating income. All right, now let's have an illustration. An individual taxpayer who is using the accrual basis in his manufacturing business reported the following results of the operations in the preceding year. Sales net of returns and discounts 4 million pesos, cost of sales 1,800,000 pesos, dividend income net of final tax 36,000 pesos, business expenses 1,600,000 pesos, gain on sale of all the equipment 100,000 pesos, sale of scrap metals 200,000 pesos, interest income on employee advances 45,000 pesos, and then gain on sale of domestic stocks directly to a buyer 10,000 pesos. And then our task here is to compute for the taxable net income. Okay, I'm going to show you right away the solution. So this is it. Ganito yung computation to arrive at the taxable net income. So, magsimula tayo sa net sales amounting to 4 million pesos. Tapos, dagdag natin itong other taxable income from operations, which is the scrap sales of 200,000 pesos. So, take note class ha, kung ano yung treatment ng other taxable income from operations. Idadagdag siya sa primary revenue, which in this case is etong net sales. So, 4 million pesos plus 200,000 pesos. The total sales is 4,200,000 pesos. Tapos, i-deduct natin itong cost of sales of 1,800,000 pesos. So, the difference is 2,400,000 pesos, and this is called as the gross income from the business. Then, we will add the non-operating income. So, ano-ano ba yung mga non-operating income? So, dapat alam nyo yun ha. Nabanggit ko yan in the previous slide. So, dito sa illustration, alin ba dito yung kabilang sa non-operating income? We have gain of sale of equipment, 100,000 pesos. And another one is this passive income not subject to final tax, which is etong interest income of employee advances, amounting to 45,000 pesos. Let's total this two. We have 100,000 pesos plus 45,000 pesos. The total non-operating income is 145,000 pesos. And then plus the 2,400,000 pesos gross income from the business. So the total gross income now is 2,545,000 pesos. Then we are going to deduct the business expenses, no, as allowable deductions. So the amount is 1,600,000 pesos. So 2,545,000 pesos total gross income less the allowable deductions or the business expenses of 1,600,000 pesos. The net income or the taxable net income is 945,000 pesos. By the way, class, etong dividend income and etong gain on sale of domestic stocks directly to a buyer, hindi to kasali sa income na subject to regular income tax. Kasi etong dividend income, this is subject to a final tax. And then etong gain on sale of domestic stocks directly to a buyer, this is subject to capital gains tax. Now we'll proceed to the corporate taxpayers. Dito kasi sa illustration na to, this is all about the computation of the taxable net income for individual taxpayers. So, ngayon naman, tingnan natin kung paano ba yung computation for the taxable net income for corporate taxpayers. So, ito yung magiging reporting format. So, we have net sales or net revenue, receipts or fees, tapos less the cost of sales or services, and then the difference is what we call as gross income from operations, and then we are going to add the other taxable income that's subject to final tax, and then the total is known as total gross income, and then deduct natin yung allowable deductions. So the difference is now the taxable net income. Now, I want you to take note, class, na for corporate taxpayers, yung revenues or receipts from secondary or incidental operations is going to be included under the classification sales or revenues or receipts or fees. And then note that we have here other taxable income not subject to final tax. It is added to the gross income from the operations to get the total gross income. So, ano ba tong other taxable income not subject to final tax? So, this category includes other items of gross income, whether or not arising from the operations of the corporation, such as gains from the dealings in properties, income distribution from an exempt joint venture, and other passive income not subject to final tax. Alright, now let's try to apply these things dito sa illustration. By the way, class, itong illustration natin is just the same with the previous illustration, except na this time, yung taxpayer natin is a corporation. Okay, so let's now compute for the taxable net income. We already have the solution, actually. So we start with the net sales. We have 4,200,000 pesos. So, saan galing ang 4,200,000 pesos? We have sales net of returns and discounts of 4 million pesos. And then, dinagdag natin etong 200,000 pesos na scrap sales. Bakit natin dinagdag etong scrap sales na 200,000 pesos? As I mentioned earlier, na for corporate taxpayers, yung revenues or receipts from secondary or incidental operations, just like this scrap sales, is going to be included under the classification sales or revenues or receipts or fees. And that is why the 200,000 pesos scrap sales is added to the 4 million pesos net sales. And then, from that, we're going to deduct the cost of sales amounting to 1,800,000 pesos. So the difference now is 2,400,000 pesos, and that is known as the gross income from the business. Then we're going to add the other taxable income not subject to final tax. So ano-ano ang mga to? We have gain on sale of equipment, 100,000 pesos. And then we also have interest income on employee advances amounting to 45,000 pesos. Let's total this two. We have 145,000 pesos. And then idagdag natin to sa gross income from the business na 2,400,000 pesos. So the total gross income is 2,545,000 pesos. Tapos deduct natin etong business expenses as allowable deductions, 1,600,000 pesos. So the difference is 945,000 pesos. Ito na ngayon yung taxable net income. Now, etong dividend income and gain on sale of domestic stocks directly to a buyer, hindi siya kasali sa other taxable income not subject to final tax. Kasi, etong dividend income, this is subject to final tax. And then, etong gain on sale of domestic stocks directly to a buyer is subject to capital gains tax. I hope by now nakita nyo na yung difference with respect to the presentation of the taxable net income for the individual taxpayers and the corporation. And then, apart from the difference na nakita nyo, another difference between the presentation of the individual taxpayer and the corporation's taxable net income is etong optional standard deduction or OSD. For individual taxpayers kasi, yung basis ng OSD is the total revenues or receipts from the operations. While for corporations, yung basis ng OSD is the total gross income subject to the regular income tax, whether or not this income arise from the regular business operations. For now, wag muna nating isipin itong OSD kasi meron tong separate chapter, and that means meron din tayong separate discussion for this, okay? Alright, let's proceed to the types of regular income tax. So, since alam na natin kung paano yung computation ng taxable net income, I believe we are now ready to go to the next step, which is the computation of the regular income tax. So, meron dalawang types of regular income tax. We have individual income tax and the corporate income tax. The individual income tax is obviously for individual taxpayers, while the corporate income tax is for the corporations. Itong individual income tax is going to be determined by reference to this tax table. So we have here the income tax table for individual taxpayers for the years 2018 to 2022. And then from 2023 and onwards, meron ding ibang tax table. Ito yon. The individual income tax or the progressive income tax is going to be applied to all individuals, including taxable estates and trust, except for the non-resident aliens not engaged in trading or business. Ulitin ko ha, the progressive income tax or the individual income tax is applied to all individuals except non-resident aliens not engaged in trading or business kasi meron silang sariling tax rate. And I want you to take note of this also. So for resident citizen, they are taxable for the income within the Philippines as well as for the income outside the Philippines. And then for the non-resident citizen, resident alien, non-resident alien engaged in trading or business, they are only taxable with respect to the income that is derived within the Philippines. Now, let's try to solve the following illustrations. We have the first one. It says that a resident citizen has a compensation income during the taxable year 2022 of 1,250,000 pesos within the Philippines and 150,000 pesos from abroad. So, we are asked here to compute for the income tax due. Okay. So, since the taxpayer is a resident citizen, so therefore, he is taxable with respect to his income within and outside the Philippines. So, we need to total the compensation income from the Philippines amounting to 1,250,000 and then the 150,000 pesos compensation income from the abroad. So, 1,250,000 plus 150,000. The total taxable compensation income is 1,400,000 pesos. Now, let's see in the tax table to know how much is the tax due. Since the taxable year in this illustration is 2022, so yung gagamitin natin na income tax table would be this one. The income tax table for individual taxpayers for the year 2018 to year 2022. Now, tingnan natin kung saang income bracket ba na belong etong 1,400,000 pesos. Saan ba? So, dito. Above 800,000 pesos to 2 million pesos. And then, yung equivalent na income tax due niya is 130,000 pesos plus 30% of the excess over 800,000 pesos. So, ibig sabihin, for the first 800,000 pesos, yung kanyang income tax due is 130,000 pesos. Tapos, in excess to the 800,000 pesos, is going to be subject to the 30%. Is going to be subject to 30% income tax rate. So, magkano ba yung excess? We have 1,400,000 minus 800,000 times 30%, that is equal to 180,000. So let's total. We have 130,000 plus 180,000. So the total tax due is 310,000 pesos. That is the, again, total income tax due. Another illustration. A resident alien has compensation income for the taxable year 2022 of 2,200,000 pesos in the Philippines and 1,250,000 from abroad. So, compute for the income tax due. So, since the taxpayer here is a resident alien, So, taxable lang siya with respect to the income that is derived within the Philippines. That means the taxable compensation income is only the 2,200,000 pesos. And then we're going to get the tax table. So, since the taxable year is 2022, so ito yung tax table na gagamitin natin. The taxable compensation income is 2,200,000 pesos. So, saan kaya siya belong? That would be here. Above 2 million pesos to 8 million pesos. So, yung equivalent na income tax due niya ay 490,000 pesos plus 32% of the excess over 2 million pesos. So, let's compute for the income tax due. So, for the first 2 million pesos, that will be subject to the income tax due of 490,000. And then, let's get the excess. So, we have 2,200,000 minus 2 million pesos. So, the difference there is 200,000 pesos. And then, we're going to multiply it with 32%. So, that is equal to 64,000 pesos. Now, let's total. 490,000 pesos plus 64,000 pesos. So, the total income tax due is 554,000 pesos. The optional 8% income tax. The self-employed and or professionals may at their option be taxed at 8% of sales or receipts and other non-operating income. This is in lieu of the progressive income tax computed under the individual tax table and the 3% percentage business tax on sales or receipts. So, merong separate chapter for this. And that means magkakaroon din tayo ng separate discussion intended for this topic, okay? So, let's move to corporate income tax or the regular corporate income tax or simply RCIT. The corporate income tax or the regular corporate income tax or simply RCIT is a proportional or a flat tax rate of 30% on taxable income applicable to any corporation other than those subject to final tax, such as non-resident foreign corporation and FCDU interest income not subject to final tax, special corporations or those subject to preferential tax rates or special regimes, and to those exempt corporations. And then I want you to take note of this. For domestic corporations, they are taxable with respect to the income derived within and outside the Philippines. And for resident foreign corporations, they are subject to the regular income tax with respect to the income derived within the Philippines. Let's now try to answer the following illustrations. We have the first one. A domestic corporation has a net income of 1,200,000 pesos in the Philippines and 800,000 pesos from abroad. Okay, take note. It's a domestic corporation. Now, recall that domestic corporations are subject to regular income tax with respect to the income derived within and outside the Philippines. So, therefore, etong 1,200,000 pesos and 800,000 pesos na income is going to be subject to regular income tax. So, we have the taxable income from the Philippines, 1,200,000 plus the taxable income from abroad of 800,000. So, the total taxable income is 2 million pesos, and then we're going to multiply it with the flat tax rate of 30%. So, ito yung tax rate for corporate income tax. So, the income tax due is 600,000 pesos. Another illustration. A resident foreign corporation has a net income of 1,200,000 pesos in the Philippines and 800,000 pesos from abroad. Take note, it's a resident foreign corporation. So, therefore, taxable lang siya with respect to the income derived within the Philippines. So, the taxable income here would only be the 1,200,000 pesos. Tapos, multiply natin agad with a flat tax rate na 30%. So, the income tax due is 360,000 pesos.